Today is Testimony Tuesday. You're about to hear an interview by Pastor Adam Dragoon in Virginia Beach as he asks one of our fellowship pastors about how God has radically changed their life. Be aware that the free version of Testimony Tuesday only includes the first half of the conversation. So make sure to check the show notes to find out how to subscribe to the premium version of the Taking the Land podcast. The premium version of this episode is released before you wake up each morning and does not include any interruptions or ads. Enjoy this Testimony Tuesday on the Taking the Land podcast.
All right, we are back on the Taking the Land podcast here on another Testimony Tuesday. We are glad that you're with us. And I happen to find myself in a country that I've never been before, in the nation of Cambodia. Been here for the last 10 days, been a wonderful time, preached a couple of revivals. And for the last few days, I've been in the neighborhood called Tak Mau and with Pastor Joe Albert Hernandez. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me.
It's been a blessing, and it's been fun spending time with you and your family and with the church. So you were gracious enough to spend some time. We're at a little coffee shop over here. You can probably hear sound in the background. But thank you for taking the time to share your testimony with our audience. So first of all, maybe for people who don't know you, can you give us a little conference-style 3 to 5 minute intro of who you are and how long you've been here?
My name is Joe Hernandez. My wife, Michelle. Our 3 kids, Abigail, Lauren, and Noah. We have been in Cambodia now going on 3 years. We're out of the McAllen Church. Pastor Roman Gutierrez is my pastor. And we have been now in the church in Tak Mau 2.5 years. We landed in Phnom Penh, and then a door opened to take over the church in Tak Mau. And this is currently where we're at in the city we're having coffee in.
Yeah. Well, it's, to me, spending some time here, I definitely have felt the opportunity of this city. It's a big place. Why don't you tell the audience, for people who haven't been here, like, what's it like living in Cambodia?
Yeah, so we are in Cambodia, which is 97% Buddhism. And so it's very heavy in that. I'm in a city called Tak Mau. It is a province outside of Phnom Penh. We took over a church that was started out of a Jacksonville, North Carolina church, Pastor Sospansky. A church that was started maybe 14 years ago.
Pastor Perry Dominguez, right?
Yes, yeah, he started this years
For those who
ago.
haven't heard it, we have his testimony on the podcast, so we'll make sure to include a link of that. Powerful story.
Him and his wife, Josie. And so they started this work here back when no one heard of Cambodia. Him and his wife labored for 10 years. And so now we have taken it over. God has restored the church. As you know, takeovers and people fall away, but God has restored the foundation that was laid by them, the disciples, the couples. And so God has been helping us. We got a bigger building. We're there with the disciples, couples, getting ready to prepare them for the next stage in their ministry and in the church. This nation is open for opportunity because the gospel is so new to them, especially the young generation. And so currently we have 8 churches in Cambodia, 3 in Phnom Penh, 1 in Battambang, 2 in Siem Reap. And so millions of people here.
But still room for more missionaries.
For sure, and it's open.
Yeah.
We're surrounded by communists. We got Vietnam there, Thailand, Laos, China. But here, for foreigners, it's visa on arrival, no issues. No issues to spread the gospel. And so that opportunity to start here and then venture on the outskirts of Cambodia, and the surrounding nations.
Yeah, we'll talk about this a little bit more later on, but maybe just right here at the beginning, some of the challenges you face. I know there's a language barrier and obviously learning a culture and all that stuff. But what are some of the things you've had to overcome to be here?
The number one thing is the language barrier. Luckily, I come from South Texas. The weather's the same. Season, hot. and rain, but just hot. And so for most, it's the language barrier. No, they don't know English a lot. And the next barrier is them not knowing Jesus. So how to get to that first few steps when you meet somebody in the corner. Oh, you don't know English? Okay, that crosses off the first hurdle. Or if they know English, then they don't know Jesus. And so you start from the beginning of everything. And so that's the main challenge. Of course, then you get into the culture, food.
Right.
How people drive, I believe. That's something you'll never get over. They think, how they live, everything's just, from America here, it's so different. But the language barrier is the number one thing.
Yeah, so just spending time with you and your family, I can tell you're picking up a little bit at least, to like day-to-day stuff. How challenging has that been for you?
It's like when you're in South Texas, you say you know Spanish, but it's just how to order tacos. That's how I got it here. I can order, I can greet, but after that, we can't. But it's easy to catch on.
Okay.
Our kids know their numbers. They know their hi, their bye also.
So it's amazing how easy it is for the kids in that age. Your kids are how old?
And my daughter's 7, Abigail, and then Lauren is 4, and Noah is 3. Interesting, my daughter just barely asked us, hey, I want to know the worship songs in English.
Yeah.
And we didn't understand what she was saying by that, but then we realized she just knows them in Khmer.
Right.
Sings them in Khmer. And we're like, oh, wow, you don't know the English songs.
Yeah.
So the benefits of starting with kids young, they'll adapt to it.
Pick it up quick.
Each kid has their favorite Asian food now. You know, my son loves white rice, not arroz con leche, white rice. And my daughter Lauren loves dumplings. And then my Abigail loves sweet and sour chicken.
Yeah.
So they're Asian.
Right. Yeah.
No more waffles and cereal.
And you guys have been here for 2 years?
We're going to go on 3.
3 years. Wow. Yeah, what an adventure, man.
Yeah.
So, we'll get to more of the cultural stuff here in Cambodia, but would you say that there's still a good reason for churches to send missionaries here to this country?
100%, especially right now. Like I said, because of the openness. You don't have to start off doing English classes.
Right.
You don't have to start off in hiding. You don't have to leave the country every 6 months, 3 months. And so here is the only nation. Thailand has some openness, but fairly difficult restrictions.
Okay.
Cambodia, you don't have that.
Yeah.
And so now's the time to invest. You don't have to worry about getting kicked out.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as the economy, and things are cheap here. Like, I mean, with restaurants we've been going to, and you can feed a whole family for $30 pretty easily.
Yes.
And so it's
foreigner friendly.
Foreigner friendly.
You can tell with the food we have here.
That's right. That's right. You guys got it way better than we did when we were in Bulgaria, for sure, with restaurants anyway. But so if somebody is willing to tackle the language barrier, there's a lot of good things about being a missionary in Cambodia. It's good opportunities. Powerful. Well, let's jump into your story and your testimony. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you grew up. What was your family life like, and what was little Joe Hernandez? What was he all about?
I grew up in a house with my dad and mom. My mom started going to our fellowship church in McAllen when I was 6 years old.
A long history.
This church was started in 1990 out of San Antonio in McAllen. And so I was growing up there, but my dad was a sinner, drug addict, drug dealer, in and out of jail. So I had those two lives in my home. My mom trying to live for God, but then my dad doing what he was doing. And so I was raised with that struggle of seeing the influence of my dad, seeing my mom, not wanting to go to church when I was young.
Yeah.
I want to stay home with my dad.
Right. Siblings?
Yes. I'm the oldest. My younger sister is Aisha. She's married to Brian. They're the assistants right now in McAllen.
Cool.
They were missionaries in Brazil.
Wow.
And then another sister from my dad, April.
Okay.
So she just recently got married.
Okay.
In the church as well. And so, I'm raised with that influence. And then, high school.
So church kid, pretty much, huh?
Church kid. Knew the church songs.
Okay.
Children's church. Went to boot camp. But then high school, and the influence of high school and the influence of my dad, that began to...
Did they stay married?
Be a bigger influence. And then my mom divorced my dad when I was 16 while he was in prison. She's still living for God, but he wasn't changing. So that's where life went harder for me.
Okay.
She divorced my dad, and I wanted that father figure.
Okay.
So now I'm a senior, 17. I'm already involved in drugs, not going to school, and my dad comes out of prison when I'm 17. And at that moment, that's when I said, you know what, I want to live with my dad.
Okay.
That father figure. It's inside of every young boy. No matter how bad their dad is, no matter how good their mom could be,
right.
I want that father figure.
That's right.
And so then I wanted that. Well, that involved me doing what he did. So then my dad he introduced me to the gang. He introduced me to the jail life. And that opened a whole nother door in my life that I wasn't prepared for.
Wow.
And so that changed my life. So then I backslid.
Not for the better.
Yeah, but they say, that's what a man is.
Okay.
And so that's what I was chasing after. That's a man.
Connect manhood
feared.
To that kind of lifestyle.
And so...
Well, before we jump into that, I'm just curious about when you were younger, did you ever have an experience where, like with God, like what was your spiritual life like before that? Do you remember ever God dealing with you when you were a kid at all?
No, just a children's church leader dealing with me to behave. That's about it. But no, I didn't. I loved God. I loved going to church.
Okay.
But that whole, wow, where's my dad?
Okay.
The attention from him
Okay.
pulled more.
Right. Okay. So coming into high school, did you finish high school?
Very-
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to jail. I missed the
Oh my
graduation. So then I had to come out and catch up on my last few credits.
So what kind of stuff were you getting involved in?
Just drugs.
Okay.
The typical drugs.
Yeah. Dealing.
Yeah, of course.
Hopefully the statutes of limitation is gone.
Yes, I survived after 7 years.
So you spent some time in jail?
Yeah.
Oh man. So I mean, I'm sure that there was a contrast from life in church with your mom versus life in jail and getting in trouble. How were you processing all of
It is the prodigal son story.
Yeah.
That's inside of every young boy, the feeling of the desire of more somewhere else.
Right.
Taking for granted what you have. That's inside of everyone. And then to realize that life you begin to live. He's with pigs, right? I'm in these little county jails, and my uncles are in the same county jail, and I'm tattooing myself, and knowing that I had a better inheritance.
Right.
I had a better life. But when I backslid, I didn't think about that. People think, oh, I'll get right later. You don't think about it.
Right.
Years can go by.
Yep.
I have friends that are still backsliding 10 plus years.
Conviction is a gift of God, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to give it.
He goes silent, and you live in that life. And so I had that moment from 17 to 21.
Okay.
Of
About 4 years. So where did that take you? Like, what was the effect of it?
in my same father's footsteps.
Yeah.
The same life. Going to the same county jails like him.
Wow.
Involved in the same gang
Family
like
curse
him.
almost, huh?
Generational, right? Doing exactly what he was doing. And at 21, I had nothing to show for it, no life, no purpose, just like my father, and my uncles, the same.
Wow. And that was like party lifestyle? Like, the reason I'm asking about more details is because no doubt there's going to be people who also can identify with that life, or they have family members or loved ones who are living that life right now. And so it's always important, I think, for people who have had that experience to explain, and obviously I don't want you to give us every detail, but so that we can identify, okay, this is where this guy was and compared to where he is now. And it's always so encouraging. Like you said, the prodigal experience, like what was the thing that had you trapped in that?
Okay, so I don't mind details.
Okay.
I didn't know what we should talk about, but the prodigal son wanted a different life, right? Take what his own and do his own choices. I wanted that. I wanted to make my own choices.
Okay.
What every teenager wants to do.
It's the illusion of freedom, right?
Yes. And so at 17, I had that choice now. We're already going to graduate. My father, they were divorced, so I could choose.
Right.
I wasn't forced to go to church no more.
Right.
And I did that because I was chasing after a relationship with my physical dad that I realized didn't want that with me.
It wasn't reciprocal.
I did everything just to please him, to show him I'm a man. I joined the gang at 17, and when I did, I come home to tell him, because I had to go somewhere and do some stuff. He said, hey, Dad, I joined the gang. I said, that's good, son. I said, but now if you mess up, I'm the one that's going to have to kill you.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, I didn't know that. But in the moment, I said, yes, Dad, and I'm going to make you proud. Think of that. And then I realized what my father really cared more about. But again, I'm in this world.
Right.
I said, yeah, now I'm out to prove that I can keep up with him and the image and all that. And so that was the life of chasing after what a lot of people want, their father relationship, and not wanting a spiritual relationship with God or with their pastor. I wanted it with my dad. Or,
Yeah?
yeah, I had to do things I wasn't prepared to do. I wasn't taught to do. He taught me how to do certain drugs that I wasn't ready for, and really made me a man in that world, in that sense. All while I knew the church song.
Right. Yeah, what a contrast.
Yeah.
From the life that you were used to.
And it wasn't until I was 21, I realized that one day, like the prodigal son, I'm in a pig pen.
Okay.
I'm in an empty stash house, no drugs, no money. And I realized after 4 years, never one day did I wake up thinking that to that moment.
Wow. What do you think led to that? Just maybe how deep the hole had gotten?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And then life slowed down, People don't think about God when life's good.
Right.
It's when life's bad.
No atheists in foxholes?
Yeah. And so that it hit me. It was a Wednesday night. And all of a sudden, I remembered church. My dad was now in jail again. I'm on the run, running away from the law. And I remembered, oh, there's church tonight.
Oh, wow.
And that was the
And you
moment.
still were in the same city?
Yeah. And that was the moment where I remembered. But if we go into the details, my mom had just finished a 3-day fast. And so if you connect the dots,
Praying mama.
she never gave up. So that 3-day fast ended Wednesday, and then that led me to remembering there was church that
That's
day.
amazing. But you didn't know about that, though.
No.
Yeah.
So after, she told me, I was fasting for you.
And you
Church was fasting for me.
church.
Yeah, they know me. I was raised in church. Everybody shares their fasting prayer needs.
Right.
I was one of the names.
So you were on the list. Wow. So you showed up to a Wednesday night after prayer and fasting. And what happened next?
Well, I didn't show up to church because when I did call, my mom says, I'm not picking you up.
Ah.
It was my stepdad that
Okay.
called me.
Okay.
Now.
Oh, so she got remarried.
Yeah, she was already getting married in the church. I came in July. She was getting married in September.
Okay.
So she's like, I have a new life. I can't do this again. So he called me that night.
Did you even know?
I didn't know him.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he picked me up that night. He says, okay, well, I'll help you. Things are different now. And he provided a home, a job, and provided structure in that pivotal moment.
Wow. So that's pretty miraculous because that's that has some risks with it to take on a guy like that in your situation and to bring him in like that. Not everybody would probably do that, you know. So they took a chance on you.
Yeah, and I'm sure he knew the stories of me,
Right.
the rebellious son that she has.
Right.
And if you get to know my dad, his name's Tim Brown, people that know him, that's the heart he has. Oh yeah, that's the heart he has.
Yeah.
So a lot of credit goes to him and who I am today for sure,
Wow.
of
Wow.
this kind of man.
Okay. Well, you should share with our audience then, like what does it take to take that kind of risk on people in the moment that they need it? Like, why was that important for you, and why is it important for believers to be able to see that in other people?
To care for them,
Yeah.
even when you know the trouble they could bring,
Yep.
just the potential,
Right.
that you know who they really are. Sometimes the life they're living in the moment, whether it's sin or rebellion, that's not really them. It's not who God created them to be. So you know inside of everyone, there is that potential to unlock what God has for them. And I think he saw that. He knew, okay, Joe Albert just being in this stage of his life, but that's not who he is.
Okay.
And so being able to see the potential in everybody, knowing that God created everyone for a specific reason.
Okay.
And so who they are in the moment is not really who they think they are, who they're meant to be. And so you got to always have that in mind.
So when you felt like God was dealing with you in that time? I mean, obviously your mom's praying for you. You're kind of at the end of your rope, but where were you at spiritually, like relationship with God? Nothing.
To be honest, he didn't exist.
Really?
So that's what's scary.
Okay.
Is people think I'll come back.
Right.
No, he will disappear from your conscience, from your mind. No guilt, no shame. You'll do things you never thought you would do. You know, you
Right.
backside, you get worse.
Right.
And that's the scary place to be. Now looking back, you know, at one time though, I did get held at gunpoint, and I'm in a car, and a lady yells because she sees what's going on. The guy in fear shoots the gun by accident, misses me. Let's just say that night I went to church.
Wow.
Thank you for listening to the Taking the Land podcast. If you made it to this point, that means you're probably hungry for more sermons. Please check out the premium Taking the Land podcast, link in the show notes. For only $3 a month, you'll get interruption and ad-free listening experience, early releases to start your day right. Sermons will appear in your feed by 6 a.m. in the U.S. Full versions of Testimony Tuesday, access to the premium subscription WhatsApp group. Finally, the best reason to subscribe. All proceeds go to world evangelism. We don't take a dime. Until next time, we wish you Godspeed as you pursue His will for your life wherever you are serving Him. Keep taking the land.
I was maybe
It was fear of
19
death.
years old, and I ran a church. That's when I did remember. Came in, I don't remember much that happens, but people in the church remember I came in, they prayed with me, but then I left again.
Wow.
So there was, I guess, little moments, God waking me up, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. And even talking to you now, I'll remember stories that I didn't remember.
Right.
And I can pinpoint, okay, God was showing me, but I wasn't ready.
Okay. So when you were 21 and your stepdad picks you up, did you feel like you were ready at that moment in a different way than you were before?
For sure.
Yeah.
I was tired.
Okay.
And then I saw my dad was now in prison again. And I was,
It's like a future version of you if things don't change.
yep. And I said, okay, am I going to go this route? Because I was on the run.
Yeah.
I didn't show up to court. So it's like, okay, now's the decision. You're going to go this way, or now's your chance to turn. And that was the pivotal moment at that time, at that moment. And then ironically, I'm 21. I come into church, and maybe 4 months later, Pastor Roman Gutierrez takes over our church. And,
so what did that mean for you?
That helped everything.
Really?
Yeah. He looks like my dad. And I remembered him in boot camp, and that was the father figure in my life. So I had now my stepdad that taught me.
And you were staying with them?
Yeah. He taught me how to be a man, to work, to be responsible. You know, saw how he treated my mother. And then I had my pastor challenging me that I needed. And so that cemented everything at 21.
Wow.
When I came into church.
So, yeah, that's an important memory. It's an important moment for you personally, but also for the McAllen Church when Pastor Roman comes in. Why don't you share a little bit about what his ministry has meant to you and to the McAllen Church and all of the people that are out of there? What does it mean to you?
When he came in, there was a lot of men. We had men. Church was 200, maybe. A lot of people.
It's a good church.
It was, yeah. It was doing great. And like myself, a young kid, 21 years old, but we weren't challenged in that area of life to do more, to take responsibility, and to do something for God.
Okay.
I guess that element was missing.
Okay.
When Pastor Roman came, he saw all these men.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey, what are you doing here? Go, let's go. And so that first conference, he sends out 7 churches. You know.
How long was that after he came in?
Oh, maybe months.
Yeah. Not long.
Not even a year. And he was just able to untap this potential in men that didn't feel qualified, men that didn't see it in themselves. He gave men that I don't know, dominion in themselves. Like, okay, yeah, I can do something. You know, my life isn't a waste. And I needed that because I didn't have direction. He challenged me that I needed.
Okay.
And so men grow when they're challenged.
That's right.
And then that's what he unlocked.
Okay.
A lot of men begin to grow spiritually, and now, 20 plus churches later.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what he brought to the church.
So a lot of people have heard Pastor Roman's testimony, and he's been, evangelist all over the place, and have heard the testimony, but you've had a different perspective of him, being up close and personal, and being trained by him. And what kind of insight would you give us into, like, how he processes life and how he sees the world, and what's the inside scoop on Pastor Roman?
Get in or get out, right? Or get run over.
Right.
He, people know him to be challenging in his preaching. But when you know the side of him, it's because he cares. He cares about the men. He knows the potential they have, but it's got to be developed. It's got to be broken. And so he's a father. He's a father to every pastor that's in our church.
He's a father figure.
Yeah, he cares.
Which is so amazing because his story is that basically he's fatherless upbringing, and even his mother kind of rejected him, right?
Yeah.
So that's amazing that he's able to assume that role. It's got to be God-given,
Yeah, and I guess because he knows how it felt to not have it.
Right.
And he learned that from Pastor Ruby.
Okay.
I mean, Pastor Ruby and him are totally different people. Right. But he was able to come under that and see how Pastor Ruby treated him. Sure, most religious churches would have saw Pastor Roman and said, no.
Yeah.
And
you stay over there.
But Pastor Ruby was able to develop him.
Right.
And so then he does that for us. Like I said, we're just in church loving God, but there was no discipleship.
Right.
You could do something. And so with the challenging of his preaching off the pulpit, serious men's classes that he started, it just produced a lot of men to rise up and take pride in their role, in their home, and in everything.
Okay.
And so
you saw that up close and personal as a young man, and was that an automatic for you? Was it a given, or did you find it like a challenge to kind of step into the whole discipleship mentality?
For most, it would be challenging, intimidating.
Yeah.
For me, I loved it.
Okay.
I wanted every bit of it because he reminded me of my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I wanted that father figure. It was so easy for me. I cling to him, and so I'm like his son. He's like my dad, and it was perfect what I needed in that moment, at that time, until to the day.
So I didn't ask about when you came back in the church, and it's always important, I think, that we share the moments that God dealt with us. So, like, can you share with the audience what was the moment of conversion? Like, when would you say that you were born again after you came back to church, or maybe you were backslidden and then you rededicated your life? Like, what did that look like for you?
So when I came at 21, that's following Wednesday.
Yep.
When I called home, it was an immediate conversion.
Okay.
No more drugs.
Really?
Immediate. Didn't care for it again. Then, of course, there was other struggles with women, relationships that I had to overcome. But the immediate conversion of I knew I'm not going back, this is my life, was immediate.
Okay. And what do you remember about that time? Like, what changed in your life?
How I viewed the world. It didn't influence me no more. It wasn't, oh, I miss the old friends, I miss the old life. No. That desire, that taste for it was out of my mouth. I didn't desire it. I didn't think about it. It's nothing about it.
I love that. And that's one of the things I try to encourage people is because a lot of times the devil beats up on us and tells us that, if you were a real Christian, then you wouldn't still be doing that bad habit or have that evil thought in your head or something like that. But the fact that your desires changed, that's the mark, right? It's not that everything changes overnight, but before you were saved, you wanted to sin. After you're saved, I want to be free from my sin and I want to be close to the Lord, right? So yeah, that's always interesting when people say that your desires changed. That's the mark of true conversion.
Yes.
Yeah. And
you can be in church but still have a desire for something else.
That's right.
That you haven't let go of.
Right. Yep.
And so and that's what I pray for people. God, change their desire.
Yeah.
Almost like change their taste buds for things.
Right.
They no longer want that craving.
You can, and God can do that. He changes our appetites so that we eat the things we need to eat instead of the things that are bad for us, right?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so you jumped into discipleship under Pastor Roman. So this was just months after you came back to the church.
Yes, and I believe it was Pastor Roman. He found out that I was still on the run from the police and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And he recommended I should turn myself in.
That's
telling
tough.
him that's not in the Bible. Never read that chapter. It says, thou shalt turn yourself in.
Okay.
And so I did it. He's like, you want to be a man? You should do that. And I did.
Face the consequence.
Yeah. And the grace of God. I show up to court. They've been looking for me. I show up with my family. Mr. Hernandez, we've been looking for you. So then I tell them my life's changed. I'm pleading with them. And they said, well, if you can give us a drug test right now, that'll help your case.
Oh, wow.
I said, I'm ready. I'm clean. And I did.
Wow.
I did it. They brought me to the back, did it, came out clean, and they gave me 6 months ankle monitor.
Okay.
So that helped me stay in church. Because I could only go a certain radius at a certain time. The GPS knew where I was. So Pastor Roman, ankle monitor, new family, great combo.
Highly recommended.
That's the way to start. Yeah, you got to have all three.
Man, that's funny. We should maybe work with the local court systems.
Yeah, put these guys on ankle monitors.
Hilarious. So you were there for 6 months kind of tied in.
Yes, which some people need that.
Yeah.
And I had that, I needed that. And from there, Pastor began to teach me, show me. When I got saved, he then was helping me get married. Like, hey, this is the next step.
Wingman.
Yeah, I was like, good.
Really? You weren't interested?
No.
Not at all, huh?
Because I was still living in sin while I'm in church.
Okay.
And he knew that. He says, no, you need to settle down. You need to get married. So he helped that.
Okay.
He helped me. My wife now, credit goes to Sister Nora and Pastor Roman.
Okay.
Yeah, he told me, he goes, you need a Nora in your life. I won't put up with you. And so that's what I got. I got a Nora in my life that's been what I needed.
Yeah.
Now where we're at, to follow me in what we're doing. So yeah, everything was because of Pastor Roman, the discipleship, and accepting the role of him as a father in my life. Some people, their pastor is their pastor, but not their father. And you can kind of miss certain things in that relationship. He can be your pastor, but if he's not your father, he can't speak to you a certain way, can't challenge you a certain way. But if your pastor is your spiritual father, then you trust everything.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why we strive for true conversions, people who are born again in our congregations, not just the church transplants. When they're born again, forever be grateful, right? And yeah, that's so critical. So before we jump into the next part of your story and talk about discipleship and pioneering and pastoring and all that stuff, I'd love for you to take a moment to maybe your experience and from your point of view, maybe speak to the person right now who caught this episode and maybe they're not saved, or maybe like you, they're running from God. Maybe they're struggling to turn from sin, trust in Jesus. What would you say? What's the salvation message that you would give to them?
Well, I hope this podcast does go to every prodigal son and daughter, because you have a lot of pastors on there they can send this to. And that is, you're living a life that you're not meant to live. You want to live, the world wants you to live, but for that prodigal son or daughter, you're living a life that's not what God wants. And it's never too late. No matter what you lost, no matter the shame, the guilt, it's not too late. And yeah, we don't see it, but the prodigal son didn't have to see it. He just had to remember where to go back home. And that's what they have to remember. Remember where to go back home. That mother church, your family, and God does the rest.
Yeah.
He restores, he puts it all back together. He makes sense of the mistakes we made. Sometimes people would think, well, what am I gonna do if I go back? How? I didn't worry about none of that. The first step was just go back, and you're never too far.
Yeah.
You're never too gone. Doesn't matter the addiction, doesn't matter the life you live. And I'm an example of that. Now I'm being used by God in this ministry that I destroyed before, that the world was trying to take away. And so it's never too late. Come back home, prodigal.
Praise God.
Yeah, it's in there.
I love that story so much in Luke chapter 15, because when he was considering the turnaround and going back home, he says to himself, maybe if I go home, my father will have some place for me. I can be a hired servant. Someplace back in the barn. I'll just sleep on the floor back there, and maybe he'll just let me live, Because when you're in that position, the only thing you can think of is all the bad stuff you've done, right? And all the inheritance that's been wasted. But when he comes back, I love it in the scripture, and it says that he starts confessing. It's like he's got a prepared speech for the Father, and he's like, "Oh Lord," to the Father, he says, "I have sinned against you and against heaven," and it's very formal. And it's like the Father doesn't even acknowledge that. It's like he doesn't even speak to that. It's like, I'm not talking to you. Go, give me a robe, give me a ring, find the sandals, And so his experience coming home, he had an expectation of what it was going to be, but he received something so much beyond his imagination.
And that's what I love about our fellowship. We have this whole layout of what's going to happen now when we come back. Our fellowship, you come in, you don't have to apologize to God, and then you're in outreach that Saturday.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
go help with the props. Stay busy. I mean, there's
but we got a concert on Saturday.
Okay, this
Right.
is all I'm, No, you just, you're already involved the next week.
Put the robe on.
Yep, let's
Put
go.
on the ring. Let's go.
You do get that fellowship. That service, everybody's celebrating, everybody. And so it's just how we view ourselves, and it's not how God views us. And our church, our fellowship, redeeming, a restoring fellowship. You can step right into it. You can destroy 4 years, and in months, things can just change.
That's redeeming the time, right? So powerful. Wow, praise God for an amazing restoration story. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to say goodbye to our free listeners. We're going to invite you to hit the subscribe button and go check out our premium options, because when we come back, I want to talk about how God called you into pastoral ministry, what that looked like for you and your wife. I want to talk about where you've pastored and some things you picked up, and then the missionary call. So it's not automatic for everybody. Certainly there are I know that for every missionary that there are some amazing things that went into that story. So, but that's going to be all in the second half. And you can check out the links in the show notes below. We always include a link to one free episode. So if you made it this far and you're like, I got to hear the rest, you can go hear the rest of this episode as a free preview if you check out the links in the show notes below. But we do encourage you to hit the premium version, because everything that we bring in, it goes directly to world evangelism. We don't keep anything for ourselves. And so we appreciate you, Pastor Joe, for joining us. For our free listeners, we'll say goodbye, and we'll be right back for everybody on the premium.
Yes, thank you.